Okay, folks, we're going to do this next session now. I'm really excited for this one. This is all about upsell opportunities and cross-sell opportunities. We have a panel. We have Jerry Stalick from Delinea joining us, along with, yep, absolutely. Make some noise for Jerry, please. Yes, thank you. And then we have Judith Platz and Max Green from SupportLogic. I'm really looking forward to this one and the discussion that they're going to have around this topic. So I'm going to hand our microphone over, and they can take it away.
Thank you, Ryan. Great. How you doing, everyone? Holding in there? Yeah? Okay. You're doing good. Just got through snacks, got through Nepal's session, right? Is there one or two more sessions in this room? Two more? Okay. All right. So let's talk about some of that data and the opportunity for support to contribute in meaningful ways to the revenue stream within the company. You heard a lot this morning about support and the data that they have, but the fact that being able to tie yourself to revenue, being able to operate as something other than a cost center, right? This is one of the most meaningful ways to do it. So to share a stat with you, I spent years and years at TSIA. And when organizations were looking for leads, so the cost of a lead, it was, so my research practice, we looked into this. We wrote a research paper just before I left in 2020. For any kinds of leads on average that the sales team, the marketing team were generating, it was $200 and above by the time you took all the cost. To get a lead from a support organization, does anybody want to take a guess? And this is based on hard, cold data. Take a guess how much a lead coming from support cost. Throwing numbers out. 15? You're warm-ish, lower. A little bit lower. A little bit higher. Perfect. Yes. $7, and this research paper still exists, and they've updated it. I looked before we came in here today. Same numbers, although the $200 number had moved up, but the support number stayed the same. So $7 to generate a lead coming from support. That right there is meaningful enough, right? In reasons why support sitting on this data can take this information, give it to their brethren in sales or in renewals or in education or services, right? Because you uncover all sorts of leads. It's not just, new product sales. It could be added services or education, things like that, okay? So I said it wrong when I first sat down. I am the thorn between two roses, and I am going to be asking Max and Jerry some questions. That's you. So Max, I want you to start with how SupportLogic changes the way companies think about their support data.
Thanks, Judy. Thanks, Jerry, for being here, taking part in this with us. I think you've heard it a fair amount already today, and yesterday for those of you who were here, right? But 90% of the data that we have in support and with our customers, right, it's unstructured. Right? And the difference there is that there's a wealth of information just in the conversations that you're having with your customers back and forth that goes beyond, the categorization of cases that your teams are doing, right? The values that they're assigning. This case is associated with this product, or is this defect, or associated with this release, right? Your customers are constantly sharing information in the course of the conversation that is positive, is negative. They're making statements that can indicate that there's a renewal coming up, right? Or that maybe even that the account is at risk, right? They're considering other options. So all of this information, you used to have to sift through the conversations, read through it end to end, right? And with AI, what you're enabled to do now is have that information served up to you in a way that it can be meaningful, right? Meaningful and actionable, right? The last thing that a manager wants to do is read through 500 support cases looking for this types of information. But by using AI, you can have this surface to you in real time, right? Without having to spend all of this time combing your sources looking for it. And so, I'm like carrying so many things here. So I think I'm going to turn the question, now I turn a question back to you, I think is what it is. Yeah. And so let's start with, Judy, let's start with the mindset. What mindset shifts are necessary to help support teams see the potential for upselling in their day-to-day work and for expansion opportunities in their day-to-day work?
So there's a lot of mindset shifts, but I would say the first one has to be lose the victim mentality. And I think a lot of support organizations feel like they're the victim in a lot of ways. And truthfully, the reason why is because oftentimes they're making up for sales expectations that were set at time of sale. And when those expectations aren't set correctly, right, what happens? Support is left trying to do whatever it is that sales sold the customer in the first place. And that's been going on since, the beginning of time, quite honestly. We all know it. But I think that support can lose that we're the victim here, and they can rise above that pretty quickly. Because again, it's amazing to me, and I've said this for many, many years, if support could take the time to take the data that they have and turn it around and give data-driven insights to other teams, they could become heroes in ways that are just beyond the scope of what we could even imagine. And instead, I think a lot of times what support focuses on is the here, the now, the fix this problem. And it's understandable. The strategic and the proactive work often go out the door because we're fighting honest to goodness fires, right? And so when you're done fighting that fire and you think about the energy that it's going to take to produce this report, to take it to sales, to have the conversation, everybody just kind of goes, I'd rather just go fight another fire, honestly, right? So I think for me, those are the things that people would have to change very quickly. And I think it's more than possible. Okay? So, Jerry, I get to ask you a question now.
Okay.
Can you share a moment when your team realized there was an upsell opportunity hidden in a routine support case?
So I'll actually share two stories, and I like your victim mentality, but I've also used the term bunker mentality, right? We're being attacked from all sides, and so we're just going to hunker down and just deal with the stuff we've got, the incoming fire we've got. So there's two scenarios actually that I've seen. One is a long time ago I worked in an organization where the support team did not have access to Salesforce or account data. And so when there were opportunities for upsell or cross-sell or even renewals at risk, we had no idea who to reach out to or how to reach out. And so we were blocked from even doing anything. So at Delinea, fortunately or unfortunately, we use Salesforce for our ticketing data, which then means we also have visibility into the account. So we can at least see who to reach out to, who's the account manager, right? We all know that account managers change all the time. And so it's impossible for a support engineer or support manager to necessarily know who's the responsible person. But, even without any sort of ecosystem around it, I was told shortly after I joined, oh, yeah, this customer was calling in and they wanted to buy more licenses. So the support engineer told the manager, who wrote an email, who sent it to somebody who may or may not have acted on it. And when you realize that that's the best you can do, you really realize why you're seen as a cost center, because a handful of emails will go out, there's no tracking of it, there's no systems to it, you don't get any credit for, even if you identified a $100,000 upsell or cross-sell opportunity, in the end, because there's no tracking, and the support engineer says, but wait, I told you about that. The salesperson takes their commission and goes, yeah, thanks, appreciate that, I'll buy you beer next time, and moves on. And so I think, for me, there has to be a better way.
Agreed. Thank you. And folks, just to give a call out, Jerry, as a customer of SupportLogic, has actually worked with us over the past couple of months because this was so important to him, and he asked us if we could work in our model and start to use our model. So Max is showing you on the screen, previous screen, where all of the
These are the existing signals.
the 40 existing signals that SupportLogic looks for, right? And this is what we've had out in the marketplace, for the last many years. And so Jerry and his team, if we go to the next slide, how you doing? We're working on 2 new sentiment signals, one for renewal and one for expansion. And here what you see are just examples in real data of what comes in, what's typed, whether it's in an email or a chat or a text, however you're servicing. And so these things have been built out, and I believe what Karan has told us is the end of October, so just weeks away. This will be incorporated into the new model. So in addition to all those other signals, now look how easy it is to grab. These cases can be alerted, right? Set up an alert, send it to the sales team or to a group, and right there, right now, live, they'll have. So that thing you talked about, the email that got sent and forwarded and whatever, or unanswered even, now alerts can go out from the system with actions being taken, right? And so tracking of what sales is doing becomes easier in the system as well, right? So really good stuff. You have something?
Yeah, I want to just jump in on the back of that. So one of the things that is going on at Delinea, and I think a lot of companies are kind of in the same boat, right? Legacy sort of hardware, software options, right? On-prem solutions. They rolled out a year and a half before I joined, they rolled out a platform. So now customers can consume the same capabilities or similar capabilities in the cloud. Our cost per ticket for on-prem is much higher than our cost per ticket for the platform. And the number of tickets submitted by an on-prem customer is significantly higher than the number of tickets submitted for a platform customer. So you talked about $7, right? So this is another thing. So now we're doing marketing around, hey, come to our platform, try our platform out. Customers call in and they say, hey, is this feature available in your platform? Man, what a great way to sort of start that conversation. But the part for me that's really important is I do not want my support engineers to become salespeople, right? Their job is to focus on and fix the problem that's in front of them. So if we can use tooling to grab those sentiments, the same way we grab escalation sentiments, and use that through automations and alerting to get that information to the sellers, I think this is going to be awesome. And we'll be able to track support-generated leads, and then we start getting credit.
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you. Max, you work with a lot of our customers, almost every one of them at some point in your career with SupportLogic. What are the most common missed opportunities you're seeing in support interactions?
Thanks, Judy. Yeah, and as mentioned, so these are new signals that are coming, right? So, but up until this point, it's not like our customers weren't seeing opportunities to find this type of find these types of opportunities within their cases, right? And so, an example of that would be, right, if you have a customer who you see having a lot of positive sentiment, right, and you take a look at what their product offerings that they currently have with you. Maybe there are, and you would know, are complementary product offerings for what they've already been sold. Like you're often trying to sell horizontally, right, additional offerings that complement what they have. And so if you find customers that are extremely happy using one of your solutions, you can use it as an opportunity to propose another one that you know is typically complementary to that solution, right? So that's actually something that I've seen often missed that you can actually do if you're taking advantage of even the existing signals there. Another example would be our platform detects confusion, as you well know. Confusion is often a great opportunity, not just for feedback back to, say, product teams and stuff, but potentially enablement opportunities for customers, right? And so this is, whether you're providing enablement as part of an existing service package that you have with your customers, or if it's potentially an upsell opportunity for enablement packages that you want to offer. There's a wealth of information within these that can be that you can leverage, right, for these types of for potentially generating revenue. And lastly, another one I would call out is maybe you have a customer that really should just be on a higher support plan. The reality, right? And this can be as simple as, this customer has a ton of cases open, but they're also, you see constant follow-up requests from the customers, right? And under their existing service package, maybe they're not entitled to 24/7 support, right? Maybe, and that's an upsell opportunity for you there as well. So these are things you can find already with SupportLogic, in addition to what you'll soon be able to find with the new signals.
Awesome. Thank you. Very good. Jerry. Yes. Thank you. Are there certain industries or types of customers where you see more upsell potential coming out of support?
So I'm not sure it's necessarily more specific industries. I think what it is for a lot of companies that are in the SaaS or the subscription space, it is very common for a customer to buy a little and then think about expansion in year 2 and year 3, right? And so I think a lot of the opportunity comes from really focusing in on that first couple of years of the relationship and seeing where the expansion opportunities or the upsell opportunities are for those customers. But I don't think that's unique to any specific industry or specific customer profile. I mean, I've heard stories of really, really, really large companies starting with very small contracts, and over a period of time, those turn into multi-million-dollar contracts, right? And so it's really sort of how do you watch and monitor those customers in the first year or two. And so both the escalation sentiment as well as the commercial sentiment are great indicators for that.
Absolutely. I personally like the how-to, right? When customers, if you're classifying your cases at the end, right, you should have maybe 6 or 7 buckets that you put them into. And if you find a lot of how-to, well, that's education team, right? What are they doing? Ultimately, you want those how-tos out of the product, but what is education doing to accelerate? If you see a lot of install config issues, right? Who set that up? Do you have partner issues? Do you have pro services issues? And really, doing a smart bucketing, I think one of the things too many organizations do is there's too many buckets. And then you're spreading peanut butter too thin on that bread, and you can't do anything with it. The less buckets that you classify into, the more data you have to make those smart decisions. So, Jerry, another one for you. And this may be too early, but we'll go with it. Sure. Okay. Has there been and you should never ask a question you don't know the answer to, but here we go. Has there been a real-world example yet for you of how SupportLogic has uncovered an upsell or a cross-sell opportunity?
No, there has not. There has been, I think the potential is there. I'm very excited by getting a chance to take a look at all of our data and see what it's telling us. I know, because I've looked at tickets, that the signals are there. They exist, right? Some of the work that we did in the early days with some of those messages, those are like from our tickets, right? And so we know that the opportunity is there. It's now we need to farm the opportunity, and in full transparency too, one of the challenges that we've got is because our ecosystem is not set up for support to find and identify and generate leads, we don't really have a good mechanism yet of how to get those leads to people who will do something about them. But that's something I'm working on while SupportLogic is putting the final pieces together. Is how do we have an end-to-end process that we get the signal, we can act on the opportunity, we send it off to the renewals team or the sales team or whoever it needs to go to, and then they can act on it.
Cool. Thanks for saying no publicly, Jerry.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking me.
You're welcome. We've both learned here today, haven't we? Okay. Max, how does integrating support data with customer success and product data, what have you seen, that customers are getting out of that, having a more holistic view? Do you have an example you can share? You don't have to name the customer, but.
Yeah, I think really ties back to what I was saying earlier, right? Where you have all this, even before what we have here, which is, as we said, coming soon, right? You have all the metadata surrounding your cases. You know what products a customer of yours is using, what features they're using, right? And I've had customers specifically look at that, that's how I gave the example before, look at that in conjunction with positive and negative sentiment to determine, okay, is this a customer that we should get customer success involved with or sales involved with to have a conversation about exploring other product offerings that we have, or regard to upselling to a higher service package or something of that nature. So it is the same example that I gave before, but this is something that we've actively worked with customers on before.
Next one's you.
Okay. Judy and Jerry, what are some signals that a customer may be ready for premium support or additional services? Doesn't have to be SupportLogic specific related.
So same answer I gave previously, but put a little twist on it. So install config issues, highlight those, right? That's either a partner opportunity potentially or a pro services, your onboarding team, because you're learning a lot during install config cases that are coming in. Or is our product too hard for customers to install themselves, if that's the case? And what should we do? What wrapping can we put around that, right? At SupportLogic, we don't have a product today that customers could install themselves. We have an onboarding team. And, ultimately, the data that we're collecting from the initial cases that we have, that is being fed to Karan, and hopefully you all, saw him earlier on stage this morning. So, because one day we do want this to be, plug and go, right, with our software. We don't want customers to necessarily have to use our onboarding team, and we'd prefer to have the onboarding team there for richer value, right? Things like, hey, Judy, can I have a different model created? Use them for more strategic services. And then, like I said, looking at the how-to issues, looking at, feature request. How can that information go back to product, and how can we help product prioritize? If you were in the room earlier, you heard my example. When I brought SupportLogic into Salesforce, I was giving the product team completely wrong information, and we were frustrating each other. And the reason I was is because my support agents were doing the quickest thing. They would click the thing at the top, like whatever the first thing in the list was. All cases were being classified to that, when in fact, we had just made their job so difficult that they didn't want to scroll down. It's like when I go and fill out online forms and I have to scroll for my age now, like, what year were you born? That's what they felt like when they were closing cases. So, you got to get that information in there in a way that's more meaningful, because you open up a whole new level of conversation with your peers.
I think going back to your question, we've kind of touched on a lot of this already. A big one for me is just the volume of cases that they're opening. And a lot of times what you see is they're getting stuck. Maybe they're under-resourced. Maybe they don't have the right capabilities. Those are situations, depending on what you define by premium support. Is that sort of, follow the sun? Is that named engineer? But it's generally, customers sort of give you that indication in both sort of the metrics that you look at, in addition to the sentiment that you can pull out of the various cases. But a lot of times it is that, hey, I've noticed you've opened 30 cases in the last 2 months. Maybe we need to lean in a little bit more. Here's your vendor, and see what we can do to kind of help this, because the customer's not happy about that either, right? They don't want to open 30 cases.
So this is Ryan. How are we doing on time? I'm sorry. We're trying to catch people up. 2 minutes? Is that what we have? 2 minutes? Oh my goodness, okay. So here we go. Natural silos, we all know it, right? There's customer success, pro services, education services, product sales, etc. Jerry, what is your thought on if you were going to step out of here today and say, okay, I'm going to start using my support data, how do you not break the silos down, but how do you get sales coming to that table and having these, I'll say support and sales for now, there's other groups certainly. How do you get sales to want to be at that table, to take this information from support, and what is the number one thing you have to do to make this a successful relationship?
So I'm going to give a semi-long answer, even though I know we're really tight on time. Years ago, I mean, we all know that support data, one, has two qualities to it. One, we talk to more customers than anybody else in most any company, right? More than sales, more than customer success, whatever. But it's also unstructured. And so before, when I prep for QBRs, I'd go through and I'd look at tickets and I'd talk to my managers and I'd talk to the engineers and I'd try to sort of get this idea of what's going on. And I would go into a QBR with the CEO and the CFO and the EIEIO and all the other people that are there. And inevitably I'd say, well, this is what our customers are telling us. And somebody would say, oh, but I talked to such and such big customer and they're not happy about that. And the entire house of cards falls apart because you don't have the data to really back it up. Yes, I've got samples and I've got examples, but they've got an example too. And when you try to fight with the head of sales, you're going to lose, right? Now it's about the data, and it's about showing them that instead of looking at a sliver of the data, I can look at all the data. I can look at everything. I can tell you what's happening with all the cases. I can tell you where the sentiment is. I can tell you what the customers are saying, and I can look at that whole view in a matter of minutes rather than spending hours and hours and only getting a piece of it. And if you can pull from that risks and opportunities so that they can target their time, right? They're not having to hunt and fish in an open field anymore. Now they know that the game is there, right? They're coin operated. Show them where the coins are, they're going to go after them. So I think that's the way to do it, is you've got the data, you tell them the story, and then set them loose.
I think the one thing I want to add, and it's as simple as this, if you really think about it, the sales and support organizations are diabolically opposed to each other. Sales is incented on the number of conversations they have, right? Truthfully. Support, we're supposed to have less conversations, right? We don't want the ping pong game when we're working on cases. So if you think about that, sales's incentive is more conversations, support's is less. And so what we need to do is get better, truthfully, across both organizations around aligning on goals and metrics. And it's that simple, and it sounds a little too simple, but it is that simple. So I can't reward Jerry for all the conversations he's having and punish Max because he's having too many if we're both trying to get to that data to use it for the expansion and renewals of our customers and ultimately to the value of our customers. So I'd add that to what you said. I think it's important. Thank you.